Whew, man, does it feel good to have the stress off your shoulders? I must say, man, like, I gotta give myself a round of applause for getting myself out of this hole and to really acquire my peace back into my sanctuary. And so you're probably wondering how I got myself out in this mess and how was I able to remove $18,000 off of debt in 18 months. And in this video, I'm going to explain how I got myself in this mess. I'm going to explain you the steps and actions I did to get myself out and the lessons I've learned through this journey, through this process. Now, I'm 28 years old, and as you can see, I still don't have my life figured out. And it's okay. It's okay that no matter what age, like if you don't have your life figured out, it's okay. You're on your own timeline. You're on your own game. So when you go through these situations, scenarios, how you want to place it, how you want to look at it, don't compare yourself to other people's journey. Don't compare yourself to other, how others are doing. Again, this is your own timeline. And, I'm just blessed to do the things I'm still doing. I'm blessed to even record this video as I'm doing it right now. And I'm just blessed to honestly just go through these trials and tribulations to see the person who I'm becoming outside of all these adversities that come across or all these situations. And just to really know nothing lasts forever, and that there will be times where you see light out of the dark tunnel. It will happen. It's just, you just have to figure out what is it you truly want to keep yourself moving forward, and to really what is it out of life you're trying to get out of, right? So how I got myself in this position, I'm going to take you way back to kind of how it all happened. So back in April 2024, that's when I got in a car accident. I totaled my car completely. The accident was my fault. I'll take full responsibility and ownership of that. And unfortunately, it just wasn't the way I wanted to go to get rid of the other car I had at the time. Fast forward to June, a few months of dealing with the insurance and looking for a car, I was able to find this car at the time through Facebook Market. I talked with a dude, ran through all the tests, and at the time, like he said, the car is good, the car runs, and to my knowledge at the time, it seemed smooth, it ran well as I purchased it. So I purchased it for June all the way up to December. This car went out of commission, the head gasket got blown, and so I was kind of in the predicament of whether if I wanted to really reinvest back into this car or just completely get a whole new car. And during that process and that state of mind, I just wasn't in the right, my mental state wasn't just in the right mind to really think clear and logically on what would be the best decision. And I kind of let my emotions, and I'm guilty of this, I'm human, is I let my emotions direct me on the decision I should have made. And the reason why I said I wasn't in the right mental state to really make the right decision was because through 2024, I went through 4 main events that just really, I just couldn't really, recollect myself as things just happened over time. My body shut down, got in a car accident, then the breakup happened, and then I had some personal issues came on top as the year was ended. So through 2024, which was a very mental drainage for me, and also like a mental fog of just trying to just go through the motion of it. So when it happened in January 2025, as you see here on the picture, this is where I purchased the car through a dealership. As again, I emotionally let that direction and that choice lead me into this position. And with that, with the emotion was I was more in tune of trying to take care of my clients as opposed to take care of myself. Now, it's something that I always kind of do, but it's something I always put myself for, is like, I was always a person that, I got to be there for my clients, because the reason clients sign up with me is for me, help them get results, take care of them, all the yada yada, right? But again, I wasn't really taking care of myself during that time. So I put people before me, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's the decision I made to lead with that And that's the reason I put myself in that position, because I choose the emotion over the logic standpoint. Now, in the grand scheme of things, when I was purchasing this car, I was breaking every math and every numbers down to the point where it's like, how much was I making having in-person clients, and how much was I making outside of the gym as well. And so I was breaking down the math. I was like, my outside clients can cover this cost for, this car, and then my in-person clients, you can cover, I have the rest to take care of the bills and other things along that nature, right? Well, as time goes on, being in this business, sometimes it's unpredictable. You got people come, people go, things like people take breaks, or people go on trips and stuff like that. So the income is always influctuable as time goes on. Well, unfortunately, you don't take in consideration of that. So as time goes on, it doesn't mean I was struggling per se, but it was just more of just like, it just puts a lot of stress on your shoulders, because like, you try to make sure that you got enough to cover the payment, you got enough to cover insurance, on top of you got enough to take care of everything else, right? And to be fair and transparent with you, is that monthly payment for the vehicle was $457, and on top of that, the insurance was $277. So really break down the math, it was almost about $750 per month I was just chucking out towards just that car alone, okay? And at the time, I was like, I can do this, is feasible and things like that, but just not knowing the stress and the amount of burn it was gonna carry over as time went on. And the entire car value itself was $20K. So the car at the time was $21K between the loan, the request payoff, and then at the same time doing the monthly payments, okay? So as time goes on, and what I did with this car, it's kind of funny. And back in January too, I just put this car on the side of the street where my apartment complex is. I'm not on the roof right now. I just put it on the side of the street where I was like, yeah, I'm just not gonna fuck with it. And so I kid you not, for the year and a half plus, this car was just sitting on the side of the street, and every time I would take a walk outside my apartment, and when I do my 20-minute walk, I'll see this car every time. I'm like, man, I gotta do something with this car. And it just kept chilling there. Like, it just kept sitting on the side of the street. Surprisingly, nothing else happened. No, trying to break into it. No, nothing else happened really during that time. But I think it was just quite funny that I was just letting this car just kind of sit, and it wasn't really doing anything. So in the times of it, in the process, I was like, it was like feasible at the time, but then it got to the point, I remember it so clear. It's like my mentor asked me, like, how's things going? I told him, well, I purchased this car and stuff like that. It's like, and I broke everything down. It's like, man, at the end of the day, it's like, you really don't need to put yourself in debt if you really need to, and I just needed A to B at the time, and that's, again, I let my emotions decide that choice. But he was like, man, like, at this time, it's like, what do you really value more, right? Do you really value the car just like, being in debt, or do you just really value what you want to get out more in life? And I was like, yeah, you're right. I like to choose this path more. It's like, I want to do more things. I want to explore more things, and like, being in debt doesn't really allow you to do so. And so it's like, let's make this happen. So for the whole year of 25 and up to pretty much of April 2026, I was just stacking away, right? I was just putting like 500 away I had like a container. I used my supplement container as my savings bank. So I was kind of stacking like 500 per month away into the container, as well as I was using like any additional outside income that was occurring. I was putting that into a savings account as well. So I had two separate accounts. The savings account was gonna be more to cover the cost of selling the vehicle, as well as the money inside the supplement account was to buy another cash car per se. So I had two separate accounts to acquire, one for enough to have a cash car, and another enough to cover the negative equity between of selling the car. And so I did that for a year and a half, going up to in April 2026, when I really accumulated over about 7 or 8 G's. I was sat down with my mentor again. It's like, hey, listen, this is what I got going on. This amount, this is probably gonna be this amount of equity or negative equity that I have to cover. And then still got this, I think about 4 or 5 G's left over to cover for get a cash car. And I told him about this car at the time. Is like, honestly, why don't you just take him to my mechanic, see what happens, see what he says, see what the price is, and we'll go from there. And that's what I did. And I got a funny story about this car too. again, like I told you, like this car was just sitting on the side of the street next to my apartment for about a year and a half. And I decided, let me just see what happens. So I went to check, of course, the battery was dead because it wasn't driving for a year and a half. So I had to jump the car first. And as you can see, I was just like, just chilling outside, just jumping the car. So I had to jump the car. And at the time beforehand, when this thing busted on me, was I only could go 4 miles was the max before the steam started blowing out of the engine. And so I looked at, and I tried, and when I looked at how far the mechanic was 6 miles. So I know in my mind is like, I only can go 4 miles, maybe 5 at most, to get a car to a certain destination before, you know, steam starts happening, you know, smoke just comes up and, you know, it starts becoming a whole fiasco at that point. So I tried calling my insurance towing to see if I have it. They say, no, that doesn't cover like that. And I tried calling the towing company from the mechanic to help out. That didn't go through. So I was like, well, that's my only option is, to be honest, is to drive it to the mechanic. So as I'm driving the mechanic, again, like I said, I know I got 4 miles max before the temperature gauge starts rising up. And so as I'm driving, I just start seeing, like, I'm looking at my GPS, I start seeing the miles go down as I get closer, and I'm starting to see the temperature rise up, and like the car starts shaking as I'm driving. And of course I'm on like the highway, right? So I'm only going 50 miles per hour as everybody's just zooming past me. In my mind, I'm just trying to tell myself, you know, like, don't break down. If you break down, get close to the side of the road. And I just kept telling, you know, I just kept talking like it was my baby. Like, you know, I was like, hey, look, we only got 2 miles to go. We got a mile left. You know, we got a quarter mile left. I'm just sitting at this turn signal, and you know, the steam is just blowing. All I did was just kept looking north, you know, and just didn't look at people around me, because at the time I'm trying to take care of things, and at the end I really don't give a fuck if like what's happening. I'm trying to take care of things. So I get there. Thankfully, the car didn't shut off on me until I got there. So I was blessed to make it there in one piece of driving this vehicle. And so, yeah, so I got that in April. You know, at the time to sell the car, the negative equity was gonna be a split difference, it was gonna be $1,600. Unfortunately, this car took a month to get fully repaired. So back in May, the value changed, and I was selling the car through Carvana. And so the value changed. So the value dropped down by $1,000. And so I was like, all right, that's not a problem, I can still cover it. Then unfortunately, I still had to take care of some other things, because at the time when I purchased the car, unfortunately the owner moved out of the country and he forgot to sign the title. And I really didn't look at that at the time when I did purchase the car back in June 2024. Again, that was a mistake on my part. And so I had to go through the whole process of figuring out, like, how do I go about it. And the first process is just figuring out was, I gotta get a bonded title to, again, put the title back in my name, since again, it was, since the title was kind of like non-existent at this point. So I do that, then I had to get insurance for the bond title, and then I had to go to the registration, or the, you know, the county tax office to get the registration. Well, at the time when I was trying to get the registration, unfortunately, check engine light came on when I was doing the inspection. Unfortunately, that failed, and then you gotta do the inspection and get the registration. So I had to wait for like another like 2 weeks to really get the check engine light fixed. So I got that fixed, and then I got back to the registration, take care of that, you know, between the registration and all the fees and stuff like that. That was additional $500. And then sold the car. Unfortunately, again, like I said, the value went down as time went on. So I was down like negative, I said like 3.8, again, being transparent with you. So, and to really fix up the car too was about 3.3K. So in total, you know, I spent about 7 to 8 G's between the two cars. But then it's like, you might be thinking, it's like, yo, that's kind of stupid. Why didn't you just put the A to the new car? I mean, at the end, you can look at it both ways, but I'd rather put 8 G's right now into it, and again, have no debt, have no car payment, than just keep making a monthly payment plus paying like a crazy amount of insurance on top of that. So that was the whole process. And yeah, in June 2026, I was able to get myself out of debt, 18,000 K out of my hands, off my shoulders, feel like a new man. And life's been good, you know, this past, you know, 3 weeks of not really dealing with it. And man, I must say, life feels good. It's been a journey, it's been fun, but man, does it feel good. So yeah, so the lessons I've learned through this process and through this journey, pretty much for a year and a half, was One is kind of being right state of mind. Try to be as clear as you can. Again, don't let the emotions direct you on the choices you're supposed to make. Really be logical. And again, don't rush in it. Don't make hash decisions. Really take the time to process and understand which direction is going to be more feasible and more beneficial for you moving forward. That was one. The second part is, I always tell people, man, I could had an extra $15,000 to $20,000 in my bank account right now if I didn't really purchase a car, and if I would just really invest another 4Gs into it. And I just learned over time, it's like, you know, purchasing a car, again, I put my big boy pants on, I'll purchase a car through the dealership, and none of these things that, you know, you get taught in school, like, you know, you really don't figure out until you really go through this process is, you know, one is like, make sure that going through a dealership, you understand like the whole ins and outs of how it goes. But especially afterwards when you purchase it, you know, through the loan is really like knows like you're gonna have more money to request a payoff than what the actual amount you purchased for the car is. Secondly, too, you're gonna pay way more in interest than what is on top of it too. So I learned over time is like I kept chucking more money out into just a car instead of it being the principal, and just learned like, yeah, I was just losing money down the road as time going on. So I just learned that over the period of time, just, you know, making the monthly payments and then just watching like the loan balance just slowly start chipping away. And also too, learned that, you know, don't get an interest rate like I did. My interest rate was 16.5. Like, again, I'm fully transparent. Again, that's the life of the game I was playing at the time. That's the choice that, you know, I was involved with. And this is full responsibility and ownership I take for. It's like, you know, don't try to put yourself in a position where you have to pay more than what it really is, to be honest. And if you know too, when you drive a vehicle off the lot, it already depreciates 15 to 20% the value of it. So that's another lesson. But I mean, that's really those two. And the third part I will say as time goes on is I really am such a simple guy, and I really don't like to make things more complicated than I need to. But unfortunately, the decisions I make, been making my life, and the things I go against what I value and what I perceive against me. I've been making things in my life way more complicated than it needs to. Now I understand that that's not really how life goes, but if I have a choice and if I can control the things that I can control, then I'm gonna control making things a lot simpler. I've learned over time, it's like, I'm just more of a simple guy, and like, why am I putting myself in more complicated like positions than I really need to? As the lesson number 3 that I will say I've been learning throughout this journey. And like I said, you know, I'm 28, I don't have my life figured out, but this is also too, if you guys have been following me for a good time too, is like I've been getting ready for my bodybuilding show, right? I'm about 30 days out from stepping back on stage after 3 years. And this is kind of like behind the scenes I've been doing while I'm getting ready for my bodybuilding show. And that's the thing too, is you're never gonna have the right time to do anything, or there's never gonna be the right time to really move forward on what you want to do unless you really change on what your priorities are and what sacrifices you try and make to really become a better version of yourself moving forward. And so my camera's been kind of tripping. It's been closing on itself even after 2 minutes. I'm not sure, I gotta kind of figure out after this. But as I was saying, like, there's never gonna be a right time for you to really do something or do what you want to do. And for me at the time was, you know, stepping back on stage. And I was like, you know, let me just figure out the day that I want to step back on stage, and, you know, I'll figure the rest of the shit out as I continue on. And that's what I did, you know. That's kept stacking money away, kept getting ready for, you know, kept doing things I need to do to get ready for the show that I got coming up at the month of August, you know. And I would say, like, it's been the greatest experience, because I just love kind of like the challenge and the pressure, but also too, it's just like, it's kind of nice, little more fun and driving reward, to be honest, to accomplish something that you're trying to do for yourself, but also to take care of things in your own hands of, you know, getting yourself out of debt too. So it was a lot of fun. And as you can see, during the time while I put myself in debt and taking care, I was able to take care of myself. And that's a lot of times when people like, where they fall off is don't lose sight on yourself. Like, don't lose sight on your health as well. Like, really kind of, dive into books, figure out like how much do you really like take care of yourself, also too, like, and do what you need to do to get yourself out of the hole, out of the debt hole. And that's what I did. I was able to figure out how much my grocery bill was going to be, figure out like what kind of supplements I need. At the time, I really didn't need supplements, so I was trying to bring more money back into my pocket. And yes, I was able to still kind of do the food challenge along that process too, but I was giving myself again the budget that I need to do that, while also to still taking care of the other things that I was trying to do. And as you can see throughout the whole process, I was still able to maintain my shape, I was able to maintain my physique, and I was able to take care of myself while I was taking. I've kind of figured out what was going on. I forgot it's very hot here in Houston, and my camera was kind of overheating. That was why I just kept going in and out. But I'm gonna try to wrap this up before my camera gets overheated again. But where I left off was, despite of everything I was, doing, taking care of the debt, making sure I was stacking up, saving up, and trying to reduce the amount, I was able to still take care of my health. I was able to still have the physique, have the look I want, and still kind of, again, just take care of myself really throughout the process, not really let myself go and not really decide like which side do I want more, take care of this, that. I was able to balance both. Again, I just figured out what was my priority, what sacrifice that I really had to make during that time, and go from there. And to be honest, I really didn't travel for the whole year of 25. Like, yeah, I was able to do some things during that time, but really, I really didn't travel. And again, that's because I choose that route, because again, I want to get myself out. I didn't want to have to worry about another car payment. I didn't want to have to worry about my insurance being so high. And then at the same time, I just want to get my freedom back. So, like I said, I'm 28, don't have everything figured out, still competing for a show. Like, again, things will get better. Again, you just gotta focus on the priority. You gotta focus on what it is that you're trying to value and cherish more of. And if you are going through the same position as I am, or before you're making a rash decision of really figuring out, hopefully this video finds you before you do. And if this video gives you value of, knowing that no matter what the person looks, they might have a great body, but they could still be going through some stuff like what I did. Hopefully this resonates with you too. But like I said, we're on to the next thing moving forward. Is I'm still somewhat in debt. I still got some credit cards to pay off. Got about 12K, again, being transparent. So gonna kind of take this month of July, just kind of focus on the show, really focus on, winning, getting first place. And then after the show, I will go back to the drawing board, see how much I need to take, how much left I have with it, how much I want to stack away and really get myself out. And maybe, if I really want to go for it, end of 26, maybe sometime in the middle of 27, I could be out of that too. And then we'll take care of student loans when that comes across too. But that's the plan moving forward with that. And then hopefully by year 27, I'm a completely free man. I'm able to do the things I want to do. And hopefully by 30, I'm hitting my 30s, a whole different man, a whole different life right there. That's what I'm looking at, and that's what I'm picturing. So I appreciate y'all for watching this. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I hope this finds you value. And I'm just excited for the show. I'm excited for removing myself out of debt. And I'm just excited for what's next in store for me. So other than that, like I said, I'm blessed. I'm at peace. I have more freedom now. And I just can't wait to get out of it 100%. Just keep moving on with life. So other than that, I catch you guys